guys, welcome back. We're still inside. We're just waiting for winter to be over. It's actually really nice outside today. I should go out and do a few things in the yard, and maybe I will after I film this. But today I'm doing a video that was kind of fun for me. I'm going to talk about my favorite perennials of last year, 2024, and maybe this will help inspire you to add some plants to your garden that you might like too. I'm going to do basically the same thing as I did in my last video where I talked about my favorite annuals of 2024. I'm going to talk about some honorable mentions, and then I'm going to go through my top 5, counting down to my number 1. And I hope to continue to do this each year. I had meant to put these up in January, but it was kind of nice taking a little break and spending time with family. So I'm doing this in February. It's probably a good time because you're probably starting to think about what you're going to put in your yard this coming year and things you want to add, and hopefully this, like I said, will inspire you. Let's get into it. Let's talk about those honorable mentions. The first one I'm going to talk about is Proven Winners Fruit Punch Sweetie Pie Dianthus. This is my favorite Dianthus. So Dianthus is not one of my favorite plants for sure. One of the reasons that I don't love Dianthus, and you're gonna think this is kind of weird that I have it in here because I'm saying all the things I don't like about it, but in a minute I'm gonna tell you all the things I do like about this Dianthus. But I don't like that they don't bloom very much. They kind of have one big flush in the spring. It is beautiful, but then they kind of are done. You cut them back. You do have to give them a good haircut. And if they're gotten large, it is a little bit of work. And then the next flush you get will just be like a really small flush, which is pretty typical with a lot of perennials, but this one doesn't give you too much, but then it leaves like this grassy ground cover behind. The reason I love the Fruit Punch Sweetie Pie is because the grassy foliage that you have is like that silvery green. It's a really cool toned green that really pops in the garden, and I love to have this in the front borders of my yard. And then the bloom that this one gives is the sweetest pink color. It's a cool toned pink. In spring it just makes me so happy because it's this big carpet. And then what I like about it is when you're done with that bloom, you have that kind of silver color foliage, which is a little different than just your typical green in the garden. So it does add a little bit of more interest into your garden, just being like a big grassy regular green. So that's why I love this one so much, and I feel like it's very vigorous, and I do feel like you do get a little bit of a second flush, and then you'll just get like a sporadic 1 or 2 flowers in my experience by the end of the season. But I do love the little mounds. I also have some key lime pie that I love. Not Proven Winners, but same thing. Whenever I put Dianthus in my yard, it's always that silvery green. I won't put any other Dianthus in my yard. I've had some others. I've since taken some out that my landscaper had put in when we first moved in. Another one that I've just absolutely fallen in love with this year is Helen von Stein's Lamb's Ear. And I have both types of Lamb's Ear in my yard and have heard people talk about Helen von Stein, so I picked some up, and it was just amazing to see the difference between the Helen von Steins and then just the regular one that I have. The regular one that I have is beautiful, and it really does mound quickly, and it just gets kind of crazy. That's one thing that I don't love about it, and at the same time sometimes I do, but it does get kind of out of hand, and I feel like it has those bloom shoots that just bloom up like crazy. I feel like I can't keep up with them, and I don't really like them. I feel like it makes the plant look a little messy, so I do like to cut them back. So I feel like they're a lot of work, but the Helen von Stein's is not a ton of work because it grows a little more slowly. It doesn't take over like crazy, but it grows enough that I feel like I can split it enough and move it, and it doesn't give me a lot of those flowering shoots. Now we'll see how it does this year. Maybe it gives you more the more you have it, so we'll see. But for right now, I just love that one so much, and I've already split it and moved it along areas in my kind of forest area by my creek, and I just absolutely love it. Another honorable mention is the Poco Orange Hot Poker by Monrovia. This is Nyphophia, and I heard Dig Plant Water Repeat. Why can't I think of her name? Anyway, I'll put it on the screen, but she had planted this along with some denim and lace Russian sage, and I also did too because I just thought it was so beautiful, and I put it in an area that's really dry and hot, and it did so well. Of course, I'm watering it right now to get it established, but here in Utah we have some areas that are really dry, and I'm hoping that I can eventually just not have to water it, and hopefully it will do well on its own. But it is so beautiful. I love the pop of orange, and it's one of my favorite things that I've added this last year. Another honorable mention, and I am kind of remembering this a little bit late, probably should have been included in my top 5, but it was one of my favorites, not this last year, but the year before, so maybe that's why I didn't really think about it. And I didn't do a video, but I'm planning on doing these videos every year from now on, but my channel's newer. Anyway, this one is Luminary Opalescence Phlox from Proven Winners. It is stunning, you guys. It's the most gorgeous pink shade. It's probably one of my favorite flowers in my garden. They just bloom and bloom and bloom all summer. I feel like regular phlox, there's all different types of phlox, but the type of phlox that this is where they do well in the summer, I feel like in Utah they kind of have a hard time, but I feel like this one's so hardy and it blooms so well and the color is beautiful. Even when I cut them back, I'll get that second flush. I definitely want to add more to my yard. They are just absolutely stunning. Probably should have been in my top 5, but I thought of them. I was just sitting down to film this. I was like, oh, I forgot that flower, but I'll make sure to mention it. As I heard about these from Plaids and Poppies, she has a big mass of them in one area in her yard, and they are just so stunning. Love the light pink. I want to try some other ones in that line too, but it's definitely one of my favorite perennials, I would say so far. Okay, so let's get down to my top 5. So number 5 is Proven Winners Dolce Spearmint Coral Bells, or Heuchera. When I saw these at Lowe's the end of this last season, I was super excited. I love the silver foliage. We have a theme going here. I really do like that kind of spearmint green or silvery green in the garden. It just kind of pops and glows, especially in areas that are shady, and coral bells do really well in like shade or part sun, and so I saw them and thought they would be perfect, and I love pairing them with different heucheras to give you that kind of different color foliage contrast next to each other, and they are such a good border plant, and I am using them on the border of that creekside bed. I absolutely love it. So this one was kind of tied with another one, so I'm just going to mention another one real quick, is the Red Rover. I can't remember what line it is exactly from Proven Winners, but it's a Heucherella, so it's a hybrid between a Heuchera and another plant that I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen here if I find out. And so their leaves are a little bit different looking, so they're a little more oak shaped. This one has a beautiful variation of red tones and purple tones together, and it is just stunning and almost like peach orange. It's so pretty, and I love it next to the spearmint. I had a hard time deciding which one I liked first, but I picked the spearmint because that's the one that I saw first and fell in love with, and went back and got some more because I think they're so perfect. And they do add a little bit of winter interest too, which is really nice. They don't die back completely, so out there I've seen them. They're not like as vibrant and full as they usually are in like the spring and summer and fall, but they do give you a little bit of color. And they're hardy in gardening zones 4 through 9, and they do well, like I said, in like part sun, part shade. They also do send up some flower spikes that are kind of like a dark pink to a light pink, and I haven't seen the blooms on those yet in person. Some people just like Heuchera for the foliage, but I do enjoy the flowers. I have some other Black Forest Cake Heuchera that I absolutely love that almost got talked about too, but maybe I'm just making a Heuchera category right now, but they are beautiful too. They're beautiful dark black, and then they have these bright cherry red blooms, and I love them in my forest. I definitely want to get some more in there. So stunning. And then my number 4 is Proven Winners Color Spires Back to the Fuchsia Salvia. This is a hybrid salvia, and it is stunning. The color is just amazing. I love it so much. It's like a bright pink color with a little bit of purple in there. They have a really big huge flush in the spring or like early summer, and then you'll cut them back. You will get a little bit of second flush, not like a huge one, but I absolutely love it. I have a mass of them by a pine tree by my creek. I'll have videos of all these hopefully that I can share here with you guys. I underplanted it with some Monrovia Pri-Star White Campanula, and I think it's going to be so beautiful, hopefully, if that survives and comes back. But I just can't wait to see that combination of the white with the pink. Should be really fun. This plant is hardy in zones 4 through 8. I do want to try the Color Spires Pink Profusion in that line also. I've heard that they do bloom a little bit more, and I might experiment a little bit with some of them and not cut them back completely this next year to see if that makes a difference or not. But I really love that plant, even though I get that really one large flush, and that's kind of typical for a lot of perennials. I'm definitely looking forward to that this spring, and it's still one of my favorite plants. My number 3 is Serendipity Allium. A lot of people talk about this. It's such an amazing plant. I do have the Proven Winners versions, but there's obviously, you don't have to get the Proven Winners ones, but I do have them because I found them, and when I find Proven Winners plants, I usually try to buy them because they can be harder to find in our area. I live in northern Utah, and so I did pick some up, and I've added several more in my garden, especially this last year. I think I added like 4 or 5 in different areas, and and they have this grassy-like base, and then they have these, of course, Allium blooms, which are round balls that I love, and they're a purple color, and they kind of bloom in a time where it's towards the end of the season where everything else is kind of dying out, and these are just starting to bloom. So I think that's another reason that I like them so much. And another thing they're great is because they're good in part sun or sun, and they're hardy in zones 4 through 8. When you do cut the flowers back, they also leave that nice grassy structure, which is really nice to have in the garden too. I will say they are part of the onion family, so I do notice the onion smell when I walk by them. So I like to put them in areas where they're not going to be like where we're sitting, because you're definitely going to have that onion smell. Some people say it's not too strong, but I actually can smell it pretty good when I'm walking by. So I like to have it in areas that we're just kind of passing by. Another one of my favorites that I just fell more in love with this year is the Blue Skywalker Veronica. These are amazing. I love the periwinkle blue color that they have on their spikes, and I feel like this color goes with any color in the garden. It looks good with red, it looks good with orange, it looks good with pink, with white, with yellow. So I love having them as a base in my landscape because I know it's a color that's going to pair well with anything. I had them next to my Surefire Rose begonias this year, and they were stunning. That kind of cool toned blue with that coral was really, really pretty. I added more this year, of course, and I especially love them next to my Limelight hydrangeas. That really light, bright green chartreuse color is just so stunning next to that purple, and hopefully I'm sharing some video clip of that with you guys because it is just so pretty. So I kind of added little pockets of that mix throughout the front yard to kind of carry that pattern on, but I love that pairing together. One of my favorite things. You can grow them in sun or part sun. They're hardy in growing zone 4 through 8, and they have a medium water requirement, so they're good too. Another thing I love about them is that I do feel like their flushes come back stronger than Salvia. So I mean, I don't know how close they are related to Salvia, but they kind of remind me of each other. I used to get them mixed up, but now I know the difference. But I feel like the flush back is definitely stronger on the Veronica, and so I do like them a little bit better that way. I'll get a nice big flush in the spring, a smaller summer flush, and then a bigger fall flush, I feel like, as long as I'm cutting back and deadheading those. And then my number one that I discovered this year was Sunseeker Rainbow Coneflowers or Echinacea. I bought the Monrovia brand at Lowe's, and when I saw them, they kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, I need those. I need them now, and planted them on a hillside that gets some sun. In our forest area, there's like one area that gets a pocket of sun, and it's dry and it's on a hill and it's kind of a hard spot, and I think they'll do well. They kind of just took off when I planted them, and I was surprised because sometimes coneflowers can kind of struggle in my yard for some reason. I don't know why. When I first plant them, I have several that die, and they just kept blooming and blooming and blooming, so I was really happy with them. One of the reasons they stopped me in my tracks was because the color is just so beautiful. They're like a bright kind of corally pink, and then as they age, the flowers get a little lighter, so you have that color variation with the newer and the older blooms, and it's just stunning. And they're just huge and massive and hardy. You can just tell they're a really hardy plant because everything's just thick and solid. I don't know, I just love them so much. I went back and got more and planted more, and I cannot wait to see them come back up this next year. And I especially love them next to my variegated iris leaves. The foliage that stays there all summer, so pretty next to that silver kind of iris foliage. As you guys can see, I really like the cool tone greens. Love that in the yard. Definitely my favorite that I found this year. So stunning. They are hardy in zones 4 through 9, and they do like sun for sure. The thing I like about them is they are drought tolerant, which is nice for us here in the desert, in the high desert in Utah. Definitely my favorite discovery of this year, and I want to pick up more. There's different colors in the line, and so I'm going to be keeping my eyes out for them and trying to find spots in my yard where I want to put them. Thanks so much for joining me in this video. I definitely want to do this every year. It's so fun to go back and look and see which plants I loved, and hopefully as I plant some new things next year, I'll fall in love with some new plants. If you have some perennials that are your favorites, please let me know down below, and if you do, what your zone is, because I would love to know. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time, and hopefully we'll be in the garden soon. Bye.